that helped your team establish some sort of a rhythm coming back here and playing tough?
Yeah, it was just a good road trip. Fought back in a lot of games. Showed some toughness, some tough weather conditions, and against a lot of tough pitchers. So just builds a mentality for the whole season and that, an identity of who we are.
Got Randy on the mound today. You've gotten quality starts out of him so far. What are you hoping to see out of him again tonight?
Yeah, looking for another quality start out of Randy, kind of continue what he's been doing. It's not easy to stack all these consecutive good starts together, so he's going to be on top of his game against the Rockies.
You got great contributions on the road trip from guys like Castellanos and Dubar. When you have veterans show up like that and have pretty immediate impact, what's the significance of that for Baltimore?
Yeah, I think the biggest significance is everybody feels like they're part of the team and they're contributing to our success. There's going to be a certain amount of main players that play a majority of the games, but a lot of times your success is determined by everybody else that fits into the roster and into the lineup. And those little puzzle pieces that kind of fit themselves in and figure out where they actually fit, that determines those extra few wins that you get in the season and whether you get in the playoffs or not. So excited to see those guys take their roles and enjoy them and have success in them.
What are your thoughts on the new City Connect uniform?
Yeah, this new uniforms look great. Takes us back to the Blue Pod days. Back when I first started with Padres, wearing the blue, and then having the way back Wednesdays where we got to wear the blue and the orange. So very cool from that perspective, and then also cool in how it represents our city and our area.
Do you want to find a leadoff hitter like a regular one? Do you not find that a priority?
It would be nice, if Ricky Henderson walked through the door and people like that. But, I think all these guys are probably capable of hitting leadoff. We'll find out which one is, the best one for our lineup.
And if they do, then would you, run off 4 or 5?
Yeah, Laureano hit leadoff for a couple days in a row, So he's got a day off today, so we got somebody else in there.
You said at the end of the last homestand that you felt like it was an outlier, the way you struggled early on, that you would play better. What do you think the team proved or demonstrated while you were on the road?
That's a long season and that you can't get worked up about, a slow start. And there'll be stretches throughout the season that are going to be very similar to that. But I think the message is whenever adversity hits or when tough times hit or when failure happens, that's a good thing for us. It makes us stronger. It makes us more perseverance, more determination, whatever you want to say. But it's going to make us tougher, stronger, and better as the season goes on.
Is it a goal of yours at all to have a more settled lineup? Or if it dictates every day for it to be different, really continue to just be different?
Yeah, both, probably. I think I've said this from the beginning. Once we find out that rhythm of, this is our lineup and this fits pretty well, that'll be what it is. And I think we've got certain people where we feel comfortable in those certain spots, and those spots haven't moved a ton. But then there's also based on who we're facing, what starting pitcher we're facing, and maybe past at bats or anything that we've come up with analytically that says this profile swing fits this profile pitcher. All those things are on the table. We're just trying to win the game that day. And if the lineup's the way to help us win that game, then we'll use it that way.
Obviously, that is the priority, winning the game that day, and that's how you make the lineups. But what are the others?
We play to win the game.
Yeah. Someone said that once. What are the other considerations that go into it in terms of long term, getting guys days here and there, keeping guys engaged? How much?
Yeah, that's a big part of it too, right? It's a long season can get monotonous at times, and sometimes just throwing a curveball in there, piques everybody's interest and gives them a little, I'm hitting in this spot today. There's a piece to that. I think it's also exciting to come to the ballpark and look at the lineup and see what it is. So, maybe our players feel that way. Maybe they feel it needs to be more consistent. It'll hopefully be a little bit of both all throughout the year.
I don't think Manny was too heartbroken about not playing in the cold yesterday in Pittsburgh. How receptive has he been to the idea of maybe taking some more time off?
He's not going to take a ton of time off. He's one of our main players and they get to play quite a bit, but we could be very strategic of when he gets a day off and then, how we use him, going forward with that. But for him to play 162 games at age 34, that's very unrealistic. If we can settle him into a good spot and get, a routine of if when he gets days off, and then we have players that come into the game and then produce when he's not playing third base, that's a huge help too. Andahar playing third base, making that last play of the game on the run, great play, and then also having 2 hits, it makes it a little bit easier to give Manny a day off.